So how is the advanced work packaging system structured? So I'm going to look at the breakdown of the packages, and I'm going to look at the relationship to the stage gate system. Now, please note that, okay, primarily when I'm presenting the system, a lot of it comes from our knowledge into the process industry construction, so industrial construction. And for that, the AWP system is, has been piloted many times. We actually understand it very well. My company, we've worked actually even in a more extensive way into developing handbooks and implementing them and supporting actually full round implementation on advanced work packaging. But please know that if you are from another industry, let's say the AEC industry, commercial construction, maybe a less conventional or less industrial construction, I've been looking into AWP, into, let's say, data center constructions and healthcare facilities. This breakdown may actually need to be tweaked, but keep an open mind. At the end of the day, in our approach to the advanced work packaging system, what we really mostly care about is going back into the principles and adopting them to your system. So the advanced work packaging breakdown is really about the logic of construction. So your very first breakdown of your scope and of your logic of construction has to follow the way you intend to execute construction. And that intention or that plan into how you're going to break down your construction is the driver to defining your work breakdown structure. As a matter of fact, one of the most widespread ways of breaking down construction based on the advanced work packaging system is to actually break it down in terms of areas. So we start by defining what we call a construction work area. The definition of these happen in a very collaborative manner. It's driven by construction, and it takes into account the specificities of your site, the constraints of the site, the specificities of your nature of construction, the type of equipment you're installing, the space you're actually getting into installing, the geography of your project. This definition of areas, as you can see here with this particular area delineated in yellow, is actually one of the most critical steps into the advanced work packaging system. So you don't get these areas right, and you don't get the buy-in around those areas, you don't have a good advanced work packaging system. Once we have those areas defined, we move to the next level, and that is distinguishing the disciplines inside each areas. And so in a way, it's like we're defining a project inside the project. The first thing we do there is by identifying the various disciplines. As you can see here, let's say piping within this area, and all of that scope is actually considered an engineering work package, or basically all the engineering associated with that piping is considered an engineering work package. Now, the engineers build this engineering work package based on really two major considerations. Number one, they need to respect the scope under that boundary, under that area, in defining the deliverables, the drawings, the isometrics under that package. And number two, they need to respect the timeline by which that package is needed so that a construction work package could be executed. Now, a construction work package is that very same scope of work for that specific discipline executed obviously in the field. So we would actually, in preparing the construction work package, we would define information associated with, safety, scaffolding, all sorts of construction-related elements. Now, why do we do this breakdown? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're looking to create, by the construction, basically discipline contractors or the construction general contractor, he or she is looking to create those small installation work packages that could be handed to a crew, which we call IWPs, that the crew can use that to install the work and do the work in a productive manner and in an uninterrupted manner that actually respects the overall flow of construction. So as a summary of all of this breakout of areas, then disciplines where we actually have a construction work package that feeds it, that is in a way that corresponds to an engineering work package, and an engineering work package that feeds the construction work package. The objective is to end up with the installation work packages, which are broken down so that the crew could, let's say in about a week worth of work, I've seen actually less and I've seen more, depending on the size of your project and the nature of the work and the nature of the discipline. But it is up to you within your site and within your construction experience to define that size in a way. Now, with that breakdown, what happens is that we translate that breakdown into a work breakdown structure, into a numbering structure that actually is propagated across the entire documentation of the project, from procurement to engineering to field to all sorts of documentation that feeds into these packages. If you look at a standard, let's say, stage gate system, the way we look at projects, okay, we start by a definition phase, early definition phase, sometimes called FEL2, maybe FEL1, 2, and then we move into the feed phase, the front-end engineering and design phase. That is also called FEL3 by certain terminologies. It is also called, you may refer to it by stage 3. All companies have different terminologies for this. And the terminology is really not important as long as you associate the advanced work packaging components with the timeline of your project delivery system. Now, advanced work packaging really works, and the advanced part really works when at least in stage 3, and that's your feed, early on, you start building your path of construction. Now, your path of construction is actually your plan and your breakdown and those areas where everybody has bought into that, including operations. Now, let me tell you this. We receive a lot of requests sometimes when people come and say, I want to implement advanced work packaging. We ask them, what stage are you? They say, we started detailed engineering already. We don't think that's the right place to start advanced work packaging. It's too late. It is really important in identifying your pilots and moving forward with this so that you can upgrade your systems and become more predictable, that you start the advanced work packaging system into phase 3, where you start delivering the path of construction. As you can see here, when we get through gate 3, and that's generally where projects get authorized, it's called full funds authorization, full investment decision, gate 3, stage, all companies, they have various terminologies for that. But by the time your project is authorized and you've finished your feed package, that's basically when the award happens to the EPC contractor. That's when we start creating the engineering work packages and the construction work packages, and we start embarking into execution. Now, the process of developing the installation work packages, and these are the very small packages that we give to the crew, that process is called work phase planning. And maybe many of you have heard the terminology before. What is work phase planning? Well, work phase planning actually is, let's say, the early version of advanced work packaging. So that's the process of creating those small packages into the field, managing them, and clearing the constraints, and helping the crew and the supervision have a more productive site. There are many ways of doing that. I've actually seen people combine this with the last planner system and all the good practices that come from the lean management system, the lean construction system, and that is okay. All of that fits into the work phase planning process. The advanced work packaging process is taking that early on and doing the early work into packaging and developing your construction work through a path of construction that is solid, developed, taken into consideration various constraints into the project. Now, please know that not all companies or industries or construction sectors will apply advanced work packaging in the same way. As I mentioned, we work with multiple industries, diverse industries. Our tradition, which advanced work packaging is getting to become a tradition in the industrial sector, has seen certain variations when it comes to the AEC industry, for example. So what is most important in approaching advanced work packaging is that you pay attention to the principles driving advanced work packaging and opt for principled project management and engage in what we call predictability thinking. I've actually, from the very, very early pilots and research to the work we've done right now, I really made, and along with the people inside the company, we made the strategic decision of expanding the way we approach projects and the way we approach advanced work packaging into a more comprehensive methodology called predictability thinking. Because you can actually decide to apply advanced work packaging, but if you have poor project management, if you have not thought about your culture, how your company's influences, your contracting strategy, and all of those elements, you may actually fail. And so to ensure success, please engage into predictability thinking. And in that, I actually want to mention those principles that I would like to invite you to think about and we go through these in detail, and I hope I'll have the chance to go through these in detail with all of you in another occasion. But please keep in mind that these principles are the real driver behind the structure of the advanced work packaging. Number one is thinking with the end in mind. And what that means is that if you do not have the right people and the right expertise early on to envision your construction and envision what is going to impact your construction, it doesn't matter if you break it down into packages and create a number instruction. What really matters is the process and the implement things. And maybe that's what makes our industry awesome, actually. It is still, it's a people industry, really. So if you have a really solid construction manager, or you have a project manager who's really good at seeing the gaps and bringing the right people, you have a much better chance at succeeding, than when you don't have that. And so please keep that thinking in mind. It's a principle of the advanced work packaging system. A couple other principles are actually associated with construction-driven engineering and planning. And I will have to mention this, that culturally speaking and process speaking, some of the people that take on most of the effort when it comes to the advanced work packaging system are the engineers. And so, we tend to assume that, okay, engineers, they need to do this, but actually it is a big change for engineering to start packaging their drawings and making a number of assumptions and designing, in addition to designing by system, taking into account the construction thinking. That is a change to engineering. So that principle need to be incorporated and driven. There is definitely the alignment of procurement with the path of construction, and this area alone is actually a big area that you need to think about. And not all companies are the same. If procurement is done by the owner, if it's done by the EPC, if it's done by a third party, maybe if it's a combination of both, if expediting is needed, if not, all of those elements, you need to think about them in aligning with the advanced work packaging system. Definitely your work breakdown structure needs to be aligned with the logical construction-driven philosophy. And so it's not a good idea to keep a number instruction that doesn't fit with the advanced work packaging number instruction. You need to align both and adopt one single work breakdown structure for the project. Other elements that are associated with the principles are constraints management. Definitely, that's a key practice. And honestly, the way we approach advanced work packaging implementation, we really don't care what you call it. Some people want to put a label around, certain features or lean oriented, or no, it's workplace planning oriented. It really doesn't matter what you call it, whatever you're comfortable with, as long as it's constraint management, as long as you have the resources and the processes and the ways to actually identify constraints and solve them and produce constraint-free packages. And finally, I'll talk about leadership overall and disciplined collaboration. And that is what comes with the culture of accountability in our industry. And so, when we help companies pilot advanced work packaging, sometimes we encounter projects where even the culture of identifying roles and responsibilities is not there. Everybody assumes, functions. People wear too many hats. And one of the main things on how projects actually fail are associated with not identifying who does what into the advanced work packaging system. So advanced work packaging is a set of tools and tactics. I would like to invite you to adopt the predictability thinking, which is an operational paradigm that underpins advanced work packaging, that is principle-driven approach to thinking about capital projects beyond tools and tactics, but to actually understand a transformational change. Through the project, you can actually see a transformation in the culture of collaboration within your project team.